Before this video begins, I'd like to make a disclaimer. I started writing this review back in March when I was about halfway through the game. Back then, it was a formal review just like my other stuff. But I just kept going on these huge rambling rants, and rewrite after rewrite after rewrite, I still kept having these very strong opinions about this game. So I decided there was a reason for that, and I decided to leave them in. I gutted out my comments on smaller subjects like music, visuals, and performance, etc., since that was just to flesh out the review in the first place. So take this as a fully scripted rant on why A Machine for Pigs simply is not nearly as good as The Dark Descent. With that said, I show spoilers for certain enemy encounters and specific sections of the game, though I try to make them pretty abstract or out of context. I don't spoil the story outside of a very abstract plot description, and all footage is from my Let's Play of this game. So, let's begin. Hey, have you seen my... Oh my god. You scared me. What is wrong with you? Can't you knock or something? Oh my god. That's Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs, everybody. Thanks for watching. So, have you seen my charger? Amnesia: The Dark Descent was a horror masterpiece for so many people, including myself. It broke the mold of unending jump scares designed to make the game worth your cash. It was a horror title that seemed to respect the player, and it orchestrated the scares, and had payoffs after chapters to develop some nice pacing and continuous rewards for pushing through that darkness. But then we have A Machine for Pigs, a game which removed a fair bit of what made the original so great, and brought back the disappointing elements of everything else. A Machine for Pigs was already a step backwards for the very short Amnesia series, only 2 games in. Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs was released on September 10th of last year. It was developed by the Chinese Room, and you may recognize that developer for Dear Esther. I loved Dear Esther, and let's not even touch the is it a game debate. It had great voice acting, great atmosphere, and great environmental detail. The writing was high school creative writing level stuff, sure, but it still worked decently well for someone like me. But let's think about what it didn't have. It didn't have puzzles, or any AI, or really any gameplay at all. It was an exploratory sightseeing experience. You walked around an island, listened to dialogue, and just experienced the way the story was told. Now let's move on from Dear Esther. I don't want to get any death threats. Now if you've already played A Machine for Pigs, I think you know where I'm going with this. The games have very similar characteristics. A Machine for Pigs has great voice acting, great atmosphere, and great environmental detail. But the puzzles are pointless. The AI is hilariously inept. And when you take a look at the gameplay, it doesn't even seem to come close to the original. So kind of my thought is it really an Amnesia game? Well, kinda. Amnesia: The Dark Descent was full of gameplay mechanics that worked to immerse you into the character and the environment. It had a great mental sanity system where if you stay in the dark for too long, your vision would warp, paintings would look haunted, and the environment would dynamically change in subtle ways. And you could even hear your character grinding his teeth in fear. The monsters in the game were obscured, and even looking at them would cause your character to take mental damage. Another thing that The Dark Descent had was an inventory. You would collect items, keys, and random trinkets to later combine or use in different ways in puzzles. And plenty of times that idea of holding on to items for later actually impacted certain sections of the game narratively. The reason I'm dwelling on this so much is that it wasn't just a mechanic for an immersive experience. This affected the gameplay. All of those mechanics caused you to look for oil for your lantern, tinderboxes for candles to help extend your oil because you had to watch how long you stayed in the darkness. You had items you had to collect, and you needed to figure out how to use them for later and in different scenarios. These simple choices created a strategy of play which kept you thinking as you played. This was the actual gameplay in itself. And guess what? The Chinese room took all of that stuff out. There are no items to collect besides notes, there is no item inventory, there is no mental health, there is actually no health, there is no limit on your flashlight power, there is no need to light candles or lamps. There is none of that in A Machine for Pigs, and as such, it's a much more streamlined game. And because of those changes, A Machine for Pigs is not nearly as memorable. Those mechanics caused you to think as you played. However, in A Machine for Pigs, just like Dear Esther, you basically walk around listening. For being the main character of this story, I don't think I've ever felt more pointless. Now, just to make this point entirely clear, I'm not saying you need to light lamps or have mental sanity, but the Chinese room removed these and did not replace it with anything. There is nothing to take its place. It's physically just a facet of the concept of amnesia, which was removed, missing. As far as I could tell, nothing was added to the game to thicken the experience. Am I clear with that? This game simply has less to it. Okay, good. Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs, just like the game, and its title, places you in an unassuming place where the character is tasked with retracing their memories. You start out in a cage, in a bedroom, of this luxurious manner. As you wake up, a figure closes the door behind them, and now you are set on your journey. You begin to quickly figure out, at a minimum, things are not as they initially seemed. There are passageways behind the walls, two-way mirrors in the bathrooms, secret doors in some rooms, and more. The manor is more creepy, in a voyeuristic sense than simply being dark and mysterious. It seems that you are being watched, or at least were watched. Details of the world, characters, and subplots are delivered through notes and journal entries, phonographic drum audio recordings, or phone calls. They often feel like they don't actually reveal anything, just some random little bits which do shed light on some very small aspects of the world. But I never found them really all that interesting.
Hello? Precious eagle cactus fruit. Help us.
And none of the notes and journals are voiced. You are just incentivized to read them. In The Dark Descent, a vast number of these were voiced, and voiced really well. The actor for Daniel does a fantastic job of placing us in the atmosphere of the scenario. Combined with the better writing, it does such a better job of setting the stage for the world and the motivations for the people involved.
Later that evening, we uncovered a passage beneath the dunes leading to a sand-covered stone structure. The professor was confident it was the tomb we sought and ordered the others to clear the way late into the dark, cold night. Tomorrow, I shall lead the men into the ancient structure, hoping to reach the burial chamber. No matter what the professor is keeping from me, the dig should yield something interesting to take back to London and the British Museum.
I could not care less about my kids and my city. Why should I honestly care? I'm their father, yeah, okay. But it's not like the game shows the relationship with the kids and then removes it. It just has me looking for my children from the get-go without showing me if they're worth saving. For all I know, the kids were brats. I'm just told I should care. The Dark Descent alleviates this by making me, Daniel, the source of the problem and the one needing the solution. In A Machine for Pigs, I'd probably just leave the city. But The Dark Descent paints a world in which you can't escape. That darkness is following you everywhere, and will eventually get you. When playing The Dark Descent, or even watching a playthrough of it, I feel like I'm a kid listening to a great radio drama. The voices and writing do such a good job of building up the threat and creepiness of the castle and the characters.
17th of May, 1839. My hands tremble as I write. I feel a need to document my tribulation, for I fear that my memory will fail me if I linger.
Just thinking about it makes me wish there was an acted audio drama that I could listen to on a rainy night. A Machine for Pigs. Another thing that The Dark Descent did better was simply the story arc. Through A Machine for Pigs, you start out as one character, continue playing as that character, and finish as that same character. However, in The Dark Descent, you begin as an innocent explorer who found an artifact. He looks for help, is pulled into doing various rituals, turning him darker and darker, and towards the end, he is what basically he feared. And at the end, you have to redeem yourself and end all the evil. Your character changes, evolves, and you see this change happen in the notes, situations, and voice dialogue. All we hear in A Machine for Pigs is that he gets angry, and sometimes more angry. Where are my children? I
want my children, you unholy bastard!
That's about as much character development as we get. Sure, details about the character are exposed, but that doesn't influence really anything at all. Your character never changes. The environment never really changes. Your goal never changes. Well, once, technically. And really, it's only at the end of the game that it's revealed what is actually going on and what's going on with your character. And amazingly enough, it doesn't actually matter. They tried to make it more of a twist, but they didn't follow through and make it impactful. Effectively, I was told, hey, this is important. Okay, why is it important? Because it is. If you play this game for the story, I think you'll be disappointed. Remember how I said the game feels Dear Estery? Well, one of the things it decided to drop from the original formula was an inventory. This means you can't grab multiple items for puzzles later. All puzzles are done immediately, one step at a time. I sometimes call these puzzles errands because due to having no inventory, you're kind of limited to how the puzzles work. They're just you running around, finding an item, and bringing it back to a machine and hitting a switch. The entire room shakes, it goes raw, gets scared, and then you move on. So these puzzles are just one step at a time, or just pressing buttons in a specific order. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Did I say specific order? My bad. I meant no specific order. There are a few puzzles within the game, which usually are just a set of buttons to push, but there appears to be no order you had to do them in. The goal is push all of the buttons at some point. I would like to point out the hardest puzzle in the entire game. A single loading section between areas. I will go ahead and just play it raw right here. Shit. Oh. T2001. I don't know what that did. I should probably save before it breaks again. There we go. Oh my god, there's a pig. Oh. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna die in here. Oh no. Thanks, Obama. Okay. glad that was sorted out. I'm just gonna go ahead and save here, because the game doesn't want to save properly. Alright, welcome back. Wait, no. Wrong one. See you next time on Let's Play Amnesia. Alright. I spoke to you guys about 3 seconds ago. I got stuck in there, because... Affordable Care Act. And, Now, just like with the puzzles, the enemy encounters are streamlined and simplified. In the Dark Descent, it had enemies that would hunt you down if they even smelled you. If it heard something, it would come running around corners and bash down a door until it found you, and you had to hide quickly. It was fantastic, it was a rush, and it was exhilarating. However, in A Machine for Pigs, things just don't work nearly as well. The flashlight doesn't even seem to affect enemies. Actually, not much seems to affect enemies. You soon begin to realize the enemies are inept. Maybe it's because they're supposed to be pigs and are therefore completely retarded. I'm not sure. Also, I know pigs are actually pretty intelligent. There was a case late in the game where one is programmed or scripted to come up near me to scare me out of my hiding spot. I decided to duck down, and it walks up to me, sniffs me, looks around for maybe 15 seconds, and then finally decides to initiate the attack. Oh, hello. What? I guess I'm still alive. The fuck is going on? They're retarded. The thing is, though, it's not just the AI of the enemies that is really irritating, but the situations in which they are placed. There is a chase scene in part of the game, and it feels like an arcade race where if you get too far ahead, it will teleport the opponents up to you to make it fair. You begin by entering an oddly empty hallway. A pig begins to scream. You understand you're supposed to run. You run through the door at the end of the hallway, and the moment you touch the door, it automatically slams shut. And the pig, regardless of where it was behind you, is instantly banging on the door, squealing. As I played through the game, I typically could imagine the game saying, "Oh, please, please, be scared of our enemies. Look, we'll throw them at you in close quarters. Are they scary yet?" To answer that question, which I asked myself, enemies, no. Situations, certainly. The enemies just aren't scary themselves, it's just the situations they're placed in, because they take you by surprise. If that makes any sense. A bit later in the game, you're running through supposedly hordes of these enemy pigs, but because I learned they are pointless except for the scripted ones, I just ran out in the open around all the enemies. But not one of them actually noticed me or went after me. All I got were some scripted sequences which actually weren't that bad. It was horribly unimmersive. Hey, what's up, guys? What's up? Hey. I'm right here. Hey. Hello? Give me some attention. I don't care. Oh, he shut the door on me. This whole topic on enemies brings me to the context of the scares. In the original Amnesia, besides a couple small, well-executed exceptions, there were no jump scares. It was always some sort of ramping tension. When you got spotted, the music would roll in, and the enemy would begin to give chase. You're sitting there, anxiously hiding behind a barrel. The screen is warping, teeth grinding, and you hear the creature growling and walking by looking for you. This peak tension point was the equivalent of a crescendo in a great piece of music. All this tension is building up to this one climax of gameplay. It's such a tense moment where he might or might not spot you. As the enemy begins to start searching further and further away, your body rushes with a sense of accomplishment and good feeling. This is what made the enemies in the Dark Descent so good in my opinion. You felt like the prey. This ramping tension worked really well for me because it felt organic and real in some way. The enemies were in real places and didn't just randomly spawn around you when the devs thought they should. And that brings me to another issue. There are times in this game where you will completely check an area, every corner. Then you will hit a button or activate something, and suddenly enemies will instantly spawn around you, and you're supposed to leave. But why are there enemies now? There is no entrance for them. No doors open, nor doors broken, no grates, no holes, anything. The game literally just spawns enemies to get you moving along. What needs to happen is it needs to work with the context of the area. What if when I hit that button, it opens up a bunch of maintenance doors or hatches, and they come through there? But the door I have to go through was one of those maintenance hatches or doors. Right there, I basically solved it. Boom, done, end of story. But there is still more. There is a kind of boss later in the game, and in a lazy way to make their spawning make sense, they just went ahead and made it a superpowered pig with teleportation powers. I mean, that totally makes sense, right? Right? No? Me neither. It also doesn't solve anything. You still get the end result. It feels cheap to the player, and specifically me. The areas and rooms aren't designed to introduce the enemies gracefully, so they just teleport them in the room and assume you won't worry about it. Like I said before, there is no gradient of tension. It's basically on and then off. It's either cuneiform or Egyptian. Or hieroglyphics. I'm sorry. Hieroglyphs. Is it hieroglyphics or hieroglyphs? Is that one of those fancy self-playing pianos? What the Guess we'll go outside. What the God damn it. It makes the pacing of the game feel very inconsistent. This spawning method also brings to light another problem I have with the game. It's somewhat bipolar. It doesn't know if it's a psychological game or not. There are sections of the game where they dynamically alter the environment to ratchet you through to the next room, but when I say dynamically, I mean they will literally just remove the door when it's just behind you. So when you look around, you say, wow, I thought there was totally a door there? That's so cool, this game is wicked. Lols. Oh. I was just in here. Wait, what the fuck? What? What? Where'd the door go? But honestly, how does that fit within the reality of this world? In the previous game, this kind of mechanic might fit since you have this shadow curse taking over the castle. There are these alien-like creatures going around, and these otherworldly gods of sorts. But this game is set in a factory, which is creepy, alright, but there's no connection I find to where the character should be experiencing elements literally just disappearing. Oh yeah, that reminds me, the interactivity in the world. In The Dark Descent, almost everything was interactive. Books, bottles, cups, chairs, pages, body parts, heads, you name it. As long as it was one I just mentioned, you can move it. In this game, it seems to try to do that and then completely forgets about it about half an hour in. In the manner, you can pick up some books and some chairs, but otherwise, everything is nailed down in the rooms. This isn't to say I need to touch everything, and I don't think. But the ability for objects to move when they're pushed is just nice. The fact that so much of the environments in this world are non-interactive just kind of cements the idea of it being streamlined, and just a sightseeing experience. Granted, this environment is a factory, but maybe, put some bolts, some random boxes, bricks, gears, or something to make it feel less like a Half-Life 1 map. The Amnesia engine allows for some impressive levels of virtual or pseudo-tangibility. When you hold onto a book with your mouse and it moves sluggishly in the air, it feels like you're holding it in kind of a weird way. Obviously, the mouse has no feedback, but the connection to what is on screen is pretty strong. Opening drawers, moving barrels, throwing bottles and seeing them break just feels so much more immersive with this engine. However, all this system is used for in A Machine for Pigs is picking up some fuses and putting them into a machine, or turning a valve. Buttons are basically you just click them, you don't even move the switch really. It's utilized so poorly. Like I mentioned earlier, the music plays a big role in explaining the kind of environment you are in The Dark Descent. And in A Machine for Pigs, there is either an absence of sound or lots of droning machine sounds. which, okay, makes sense, but perhaps have some artistic license to have some very faint, transparent music playing to accent some areas. You might come across a phonograph once or twice in a room, but that's really it. More of that would work wonderfully to fit with the environment. Perhaps even some radios left on in some sections of the room to build a nicer sense of placement, and to help imagine that people worked in these areas. Something. Everything seems so lifeless, and not simply that, but always lifeless, as if this is just a dream or something. Now, this is the part of the show where I delve into the problems outside of design, the glitches and the bugs section. I just finished playing this game back in April, far past launch, and I still had some serious issues. Notably, there are holes all over the world. I fell out of the map 3 times unintentionally. That's more than my time playing both Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. Think about that for a moment. I would hit a switch and then run over to one side of the room to have a look at what might happen, and as I would hit a wall or maybe a corner, I would fall through the map to my eventual death. Alright, best tactic, get in the corner. What? The worst part about this is that it's combined with the pathetic save system. In the first Amnesia, the game tells you straight up, use headphones in a dark room and do not worry about saving. Worry about playing. In A Machine for Pigs, though, you better worry about saving because this game certainly is not worrying for you. It will save at painfully bad times, sometimes 10 to 15 minutes before you died. Sometimes it will save you in the right place, but somehow the wrong time. Now, the last time I fell through the map, I loaded the latest save, which loaded me back in a yard with a door, which is open normally. Oh, hello. Hey babe, you want a good time? Whoa! It's good. It's good tea. Where the fuck? Oh, okay. Wait a second. How the hell? What? Are you serious? So, it put me back past that point with... This game is so broken. But since I died when I passed the door was locked, and I could not continue. You have to worry about the saves. But since it implies you shouldn't worry, it doesn't let you just save the game normally. You have to click on Save and Exit to go to the main menu, then reload a save to make sure you got to the right spot. I had to do this an embarrassing amount of times. I'm not finished with the glitches though, there are more. Like I mentioned earlier, the game will change the layout of rooms to progress you through an area, but it does a bad job of faking it. There is a section where you leave a doorway and walk out, and it's supposed to turn to a wall without you noticing. But it changes to a wall while I was still in the process of turning. Watch this. Oh! Oh-ho! I caught you. I caught you. At least, I don't know, give me maybe 2 or 3 feet before swapping walls. Then there are the crashes. I crashed perhaps 5, maybe 6 times, usually during long loading sequences. This was most annoying during the end of the game in my Let's Play, where I crashed during a significant point in the story. This was worse with the broken save system since it last saved before a boss moment, and before a ton of pointless and worthless dialogue and plot info, during which I, conveniently, was also forced to walk in slow motion, with no option to skip. This was logically to make sure I heard all the dialogue so I wouldn't trigger something I shouldn't, so I had no other choice than to re-listen to the dialogue, which to me did not really add anything. It was just another 0.01% of plot detail to add to the giant homogeneous ball of what they call the story. Then afterwards I had to redo a puzzle, which wasn't actually a puzzle at all, it was just me pressing 4 buttons in any order I possibly fucking want, and then I continued on to get the game over with. Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs, is strange to me, because I'd recommend it more to people who have never played the first one, because then they're less likely to be let down. So, my advice is if you haven't played either game, buy it on sale, play through it, and then play through The Dark Descent afterwards. I think you will understand how much more enjoyable and rewarding the experience is. This game seems full of checkbox mechanics to make it feel fuller, puzzles which aren't really puzzles, backtracking when you could have just given us an inventory, an empty world with a lack of character, cheap jump scares to make sure people feel spooked, and just a horribly unreliable game, forcing me to replay many sections. The Chinese room really needs to stick to their strong points. Maybe it's because I'm looking for it, but it does seem like the two games I talked about from them do have some similarities in their strong points and weak points. To summarize those things I talked about, the game has great voice acting, the atmosphere of the world is plenty depressing, dirty, and creepy, just like it should be. The environmental detail is fantastic. The styles of the areas you are in seems absolutely perfect. But the problem is that the enemies just don't pose a proper threat in the right sense. The puzzles are just progression gates to give you something different to do, which loosely tie with the story at the smallest level. And the removal of the inventory, health management, and the limited light means there is so much less to think about when playing. It's a significantly streamlined Amnesia, and like I mentioned before, I don't think Amnesia should be streamlined. It won't have nearly the impact. And A Machine for Pigs didn't. It really just feels like an exploration Amnesia. There really isn't much game there. As always, this is in my honest opinion. Watch other people's reviews to see what they think, to see if this is something that will work for you. I don't expect these problems I listed to be fixed, so keep that in mind, since it's almost a year past release. If you for some reason enjoyed this review or are really angry critical look at this game, please subscribe to this channel at youtube.com/SirCrest. If you want to watch my full Let's Play of this game, head on over to my second channel at youtube.com/CrestyPlays. I'm on Twitter and Facebook where I post updates on projects and videos, and I'm always around for questions. I have a Patreon campaign if you'd like to support me and my videos like these. Links to all those in the description. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again on my next review. I'm over here. Fuck! No! I'm not. I'm so... That was... Oh my god, that is going in my review. That was so stupid. So... Have you seen my charger? That's a wrap.